Hello, this is Dr. Mike, and this is for my CIS 2642 pen test class. This is just a quick demo around Topic 9, Exploit and Pivot. Um, so we'll take a quick look at that, and even though the concept of pivoting probably won't come into play in this demo, we'll talk about persistence and how you can probably use persistence, and just a quick demo of utilizing the whole process of um, post vulnerability scan, find an exploit, kick it off, and then gather some loot, and we will go from there. So, anyways, you're finding a couple tools here we'll be looking at. This is the sectools.org website, and they have like the top 125 list. It changes, but Wireshark's always been number one for a while, it seems like. But number two, Metasploit. We're going to go and pop in Metasploit. We're going to use this. Now, we looked at Metasploit before. I looked at it more of the early stages or mid stages, even late stages of vulnerability scanning. You can use Metasploit to do a DB Nmap and scan end results directly into Metasploit, or you can import results from an Nmap scan from the XML output. So we did that already, but we're going to look a little more at using Metasploit. Again, and then we're also going to look at probably one of the big tools, of course, I think is used in this one is Netcat. And if we don't use it directly yet, we will talk about it later. But you can see there's actually a great list of tools here. It's sectools.org. So anyways, so we're in here, we've done some scanning, and we find our TikiWiki page is running on our target, which is 192.168.68.12. And so from our vulnerability scan, maybe we did some research, we find that there's possibly a old CVE open, which is a pretty bad one. It's got some really bad stuff here. I won't go through all the details here, but we look it up and we find that there is a TikiWiki graph formula remote code execution. It actually has execution code here, and this actually has a Metasploit author, which means it's in Metasploit. So good news is we can utilize that. So we will close that there. All right, now, so before I start, I'm logged in as root. I'm in Kali. I'm going to issue a msfdb start. Now, it probably is already running, or if you have your own Metasploit, it's possibly already has been started. I'm just issuing here to make sure it starts. It helps with searching, and if the cache is not updated, though, you'll get slow searches. Not a huge deal for our demo, but it's something you want to look at is managing your database for Metasploit. So, manss console, we'll enter Metasploit. Again, I'm just not going to go over everything about Metasploit. I always love the login screens. Jurassic Park, fantastic. So we're going to look at migrating to a different process ID though after we kick off this exploit. So again, we already have our target. I'm not going to go through everything here, but there's a lot of stuff within Metasploit we're going to look at. And of course, the big ones is you can just type help. There's a lot of stuff you can look at. Search, definitely something we're going to use. And of course, set. We're going to set certain variables and values. And you can show information if you want. Now, if you do show empty, you're going to get everything. It runs for a while. But and then of course, we have either exploit or run. We'll run our stuff here. And then of course, our database commands. If we want to import, export, we get our status. But for now, we should be good. So if I want to search, let's search for TikiWiki. So TikiWiki, tongue twister. All right, cool. So we see that this is from the same exploit here. It's the exploit Unix TikiWiki graph formula exe. This is the PHP code execution. And now just a note here, our host is Linux, but this is actually a Unix exploit. So there is a lot of crossover. You will find some, there's a lot of crossover between the code bases there. So don't always assume it's only in Linux if you're looking for an exploit. Always search for the Unix branch also. So to use this, I'm going to use, and we're going to go ahead and type the word exploit and hit tab, Unix, tab, web app, again tab, TIKI because I don't want to type all that, and GR graph from exe. So show options. Again, a lot of tab completion units can help you out. You can see it is, of course, you can get info about it and information like that. I think I showed that earlier. For now, though, I just want to show my options. It's our host is a big one. This is our remote host and our port. Now, I don't have the scan results up, but for my vulnerability scan and recon, I know TikiWiki is running on the base URL. Make sure it's not modified. And this applies to anything that has a URL base. It's possible they may have moved it to a different setup on their web server. It is required. It's port 80. This it is. You might find maybe like port 8080. It could be a side, something they have running on the side, not for regular use, but maybe for admin use or other users to use, or just they use 8080. So make sure your port's correct. Again, I'm not going to go through all the scan results here. We're going to keep this short. But our host. Sometimes you'll see our hosts or our host. So what you want to do is use our set command. And I do RHO, hit tab. Tab completion is great. You can see it's our host. It knows it's our host. And of course, I'm going to feed it 192.168.68.12. And if I just up arrow, we can see that now it's now set. So verify it's correct. Now for this one, we do actually want to load a payload. So we're going to set our payload. Now you don't see a payload thing here. There's more options if you look at more information about this. But our payload we want to do is the PHP, and a key here is interpreter. If it's a interpreter handled payload, in this case we want a reverse shell, and we use TCP. There's a lot of shells. I'm not going to go into all the details about different types of shells. Netcat is a very popular shell. You can stand up even with just a command line. That could be a way to do persistence also. If you can run Netcat on your target as the user you could exploit with, you could stand up a remote shell. That way, in case they shut down TikiWiki, that shell's still there. So again, reverse TCP. We have our payload loaded. If I do show options again, we will see there's more options now. Our payload actually has options also. And that is for us, localhost. That's our IP address. So I'm going to set lhost to 192.168.9.2. And if I show options again, you can see here we have 192.168.1.2. That's correct. 444 works. It's a default. If you have any issues, you might need to change the port. This is our listening port from our host. Being on we're on Kali should be fine. And I'm going to type exploit. Now, if it doesn't work the first time, do it again. There's times it just does not catch. I don't know the science behind it there. It's always worth giving another run. If you get exploit executed, however, session was not created or shell was not created, then you need to run it again. In this case, it did work. We actually have a interpreter session 1 open. Now you have a interpreter sessions. You can actually have multiple shells open with interpreter, and that's what I have here. So this is a interpreter command list at the Rapid7 documentation site. So a lot here too. We're going to go through all of this. We're talking about some of the main ones here. And that's going to, of course, be a lot of the get and run and a lot of the post exploit. So first off here, I'm actually going to open up a file explorer. Go to computer, and we'll go to our /root. Let's do detail view here. Now we're going to show hidden files. Now we are running Mesploitable 6.5, MSF5. So this is an older version. This is in the lab. There's a hidden directory here, .msf5. And we have a loot directory. Right now it's empty. We'll come back to it. You can, of course, do this in a command line too, but we just want to take a peek inside there. So we have is you type in help, and you'll get a list of things you can run. So some ones we'll look at, of course, are going to be the run command. We have a bunch of scripts Meterpreter has. And this is what it does. Meterpreter not only handles shells, multiple sessions of shells, you actually can run some preloaded scripts. Now, expected a lot of errors. Depend on your if you have root shell, then you probably can run everything. But even if you have root shell, some of the scripts are just generic. You're sort of just hit it with a shotgun and saying, what can I grab? And it's going to try to grab stuff that's not there, either doesn't exist, or in the case of my access here, we'll see, it's possible I don't have read or write access to those certain files. So we're going to start with the gets. We have, so we can get, print, this is the working directory, get working directory, as well as get env, if we want environment variables, but we're going to get UID and get PID. So real simple stuff. So get UID, we are www-data, so we know that that's our username. Get PID, we are currently at 2183, and of course we can get, hit tab a couple times, get working directory, and no surprise, we are, of course, we exploited TikiWiki, and that dumped us into the TikiWiki home, which is var www.tikiwiki, basically the web homepage. So knowing that, I'm not sure how it's going to work. Of course, we can look at exploitation, maybe get a some sort of horizontal escalation or a vertical escalation, either become a different user. But for now, though, we're going to see what we have. So first I'm going to look at it, so it's going to start running some of these get, and we're going to actually do, do run. So if you do run, hit tab key a couple times, and you'll see 297 possibilities, at least at the time of this recording. And we have a bunch of stuff here. Auto rotate, dump links, enumerate Chrome, enumerate. These are probably listed somewhere in the details here. But there's a migrate. We're going to look at that in a second. But first off, we're just going to run what we can. So, and that's right here. It's a run post Linux, gather. Those are the main ones we're going to try these out. And we'll try a few of these out and you'll see what we get. So we'll get networks, configs, system, and maybe we'll do a hash dump. So we're going to run post Linux gather. Again, tab completion is great. Enum, and we'll try configs. All right, let that run. Now you can see a bunch of failed, and some worked. You can see it stores it. It stores these loot in that, again, the .msf5 loot, and it has sort of a date timestamp default, and then we have enum config.txt. A real long, sort of the IP address or host name, the module that was run, and the output of it. So the fails could be either we don't have access to it, or the file does not exist. So expect to get a lot of that. And let's do the up arrow, enum, tab. So enum our networks. Oh, okay. Info, broken web applications, like a root name, root, password, WSPA. All right, interesting. Enum, tab. Let's do system. What we're doing is we're grabbing as much as we can before anything happens, before we get cut off. And you can approach it different ways. You can move off the PID if possible, but it's going to be hard to move to a process ID you don't belong to. Okay, this was interrupted by console user, it says, and then let's look at, we'll look at those right there. So let's stop with that. If you go look at here, you can see now we have a bunch of files. Some of these are pretty big. Some are config files, whatever we can glean from the system. IP tables, some stuff might be there, might not. So that's what we're doing when we gather loot. All right, so let's see here. Let's go ahead and look at our get PID. And we should see a process ID. Now it's possible we were disconnected. So in that case, we will exit this one here and we'll kick it off again. Sometimes you gotta let it sit. Okay, yeah, so let's get it timed out. So we will quit, We will exploit it again. So up arrow. Oh. Exploit. Okay, so open in session 2. One's still open, and it's probably going to be a dead session. Okay, so get PID. Okay, 2184. If I do again, if I do help, you can see we want to get a PS list. So I'll do PS. We're at 2184, was it? Get PID. So we're at this one again. Was we actually exploited the Apache 2 binary right there? So is it possible we can move? These are defunct processes. They may have been shuffled out, so we may have been on one of those. Is it possible we can move to a process owned by www-data? So keep it simple for now. You know, again, if we try to move something that's owned by root, it's not going to work. But we'll go and move to 2181. So we're going to run migrate. If you're not sure what the options are, you can do --help, but it's -p for the PID we want to move to. So let's move to 2181. 2181. If it works, we do our get PID again. Now we're on 21. Oh, still I didn't migrate. Okay. Sometimes you got to give it a 2185. Let's try that. Let's see if that works. Still stuck at 2184. So I'm not going to give you an explanation of why it's not running, but get PID is a way to try to move around. These are defunct processes here. So if we can move, of course we can't move to anything owned by Apache Start. We should move into maybe 2021. So that's what you do. You sort of try to move around between processes you own or definitely own, but that's probably the easiest way to do it. If I can't, there's no way I can move to, it's owned by nobody, so it's probably not going to work. But I should be able to move to a process ID that is owned by my user. So the process list will help you out there. Another option too is you can try to run maybe a netcat script to another, to open the netcat listener. And we'll look at that with persistence. So, but for now though, we'll leave it at this. 17 minutes is long enough. I just want to show you mostly the run and sort of the get commands. The get and the run, and especially the run post Linux gather, or any multi-gather too. Look at the multi. It's multiple platforms. Of course, if it's not an iOS backup, there's no iOS backups here. And of course, if we were on Windows, we can look at Windows Gather. So if we had a Windows machine we breached, you can also use those. So those probably be your best bet for initially getting in, is to gather information about our target. Might help us get back in and or find that escalation to get a higher level of access. So one of the ones we actually ran, it was the run. It was in new network. So right here, it says I found root name and password. So that's username, root, and password OWSBPA. Of course, you would try that out. That's a huge deal right there. So if that worked, OWASP-BPA. We can do this, Anoop terminal, and we can try SSH root at, and that is 192.168.68.12. And I'm going to get this here so I can see what it says. I'll get password OWASPBWA. Look at that. So we now have root access. So of course that's a pretty weak password, and that will probably be cracked with Hydra. Maybe we'll look at that too. But you can see initially I've actually now had a escalation with root password. Now I can do whatever I want. So we can kick off Armitage and we can do all kinds of stuff. So anyways, leave it there. About 20 minutes in, I just want to show you. That's a demo of about how the collection process might uncover more information to help you get further access, and or you can use your PID run migrate to migrate off of certain process IDs. It's hit and miss. Running exploits is hit and miss. There's times it just won't go. There's times it says it ran but did not establish a shell. It's hard to see what's causing that. In real life, it's really hard to get stuff to run the first time properly. This is of course, this is a lab environment, so things will run really easily. But it's more about thinking about the process and understand there's going to be a lot of hit and misses and a lot of failing, but sometimes you'll get something to work out. Anyways, thanks for watching the demo, and take care.